Hello everyone, my name is Mark Flores, and this is my interpersonal communication project. Now, what is interpersonal communication? Well, communication is best viewed as a continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning-making. Communication is an integral part of life. Without it, we would not survive. Verbal and nonverbal communication begins at birth and ends at death. We need communication not only to transmit information and acknowledge to one another, but more importantly, to relate to one another as human beings around the world in the context of relationships, families, organizations, and nations. Interpersonal communication is a subset of communication, and is a type or kind of communication that happens when people involved in a conversation talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. Interpersonal communication is simply defined as sending a message for someone that can be accepted by others and getting a direct feedback. Now, we all lack skills as listeners and talkers for many reasons, and these reasons I consider filters, which consist of childhood experiences, formal training, psychological limitations, and socialized attitudes. And these filters can be both personal and universal. So most people are more interested in telling their stories instead of listening to others about theirs. And as simple as communication may seem, it's far more complex than we may be able to fathom. Now, overarching goals. Now, we all want to be heard and understood, ultimately. And it is important that we try to listen and understand others as well. So the personal, as I mentioned earlier, it consists of 5 qualities: uniqueness, unmeasurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressability. Interpersonal communication can be understood as one of a continuum that has personal communication and impersonal communication at the other. Interpersonal communication consists of face-to-face contact for more effective communication, in which effectiveness depends on several components, including openness, empathy, supportiveness, positiveness, and equality. The how, what, why, and whereof of communication can either edify or harm our communication skills. What we say, how we say it, and what we mean by what we say are extremely important and can be life-changing. Enlarging the conversation. Now, the term enlarging the conversation can be understood in the sense of keeping the conversation going with 2 important goals described by Peterson in 2012. These goals are ownership and openness. Now, ownership in communication means taking responsibility for the feelings and thoughts that are ours. And openness means to make it clear that we are open to other people and that they too are people who have something to offer us. Now, the enlarging my conversation equation, which we just talked about, consists of 2 parts: identify needs and intentional resources. And your content quotient, which is related to the enlarging my conversation equation, is a measure of how you can connect with another person. It is a quotient that expresses the ratio between the quality of contact you experience and the quality of contact that's possible. And this determines the richness or quality of contact achieved and the richness or quality of contact possible. Now, Stewart 2012 tells us that there's a direct link between the quality of your communication and the quality of your life. Furthermore, it comes to enlarging the conversation. We are social beings, and communication is where humanness happens. Which is so true. Now, my background in behavioral blend. My background is I'm a Mexican American, and I was always taught that when you speak to someone, you stand up straight and you look them directly in the eyes. You don't speak unless you're spoken to. You be quiet when adults are speaking. Respect your elders. Adults get the last word, to never talk back, and never speak or talk to strangers. Now, behavioral blend consists of 3 parts: it's your background, communication events that you've experienced in life, and the internal thought processes that run through your body, that run through your mind. Behavioral blend can be defined as the way a person thinks, acts, and feels. It can be broken down into two categories. What's expected of a person, what's expected of me, or who a person truly is, meaning this is me. Carbonell 2008 explains that most people seem to lean toward two specific personality styles, whereas 85% of people have 2 or 3 behavioral blends motivating them. As explained, having 3 of the behavioral traits predominate in one's personality is a blessing or a challenge. When individuals are either in the work environments or in settings away from their homes or comfort zones, people tend to have different motivations in public, at work or away from where they live, than they have in private, at home or in familiar environments. Which is so true. In different situations, we act different. With other people, we act different. So, the term personality and temperament are synonymous to most people. When we use these terms, we're referring to the predictable patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behavior. There are many theories about personality types. This model is simple to understand, easy to remember, and practical to apply, which I'll show you here about the 4 temperaments here in a minute. Understanding our active or passive roles helps us to identify our specific temperament styles. By combining these 2 different categories of influence along with our task and people orientations, we end up with the 4 specific types. Everyone has a predictable pattern of behavior because of his or her specific personality. There are 4 basic personality types. These types, also known as temperaments, blend together to determine your unique personality, who you are, how you behave, to help you understand why you often feel, think, and act the way you do. According to Carbonell 2008, the model of human behavior consists of 4 basic types of temperaments, which are these. The 4 basic types are D personality types, which are active and task-orientated, I personality types, which are active and people-orientated, S personality types, which are passive and people-orientated, and C personality types, which are passive and task-orientated. So to better understand the 4 temperaments models of the human behavior, you can graphically visualize the 4 types in vectors, right here. Dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. Each type is independent of the others, but they also are related in specific ways. So where each one is independent, they each complement one another as well. The 4 temperament model of human behavior, which I just went over, is the D, which means people are directing, driving, demanding, dominating, determined, decisive, and doing. I, which means people are inspiring, influencing, inducing, impressing, interactive, interested in people as well. The S, which means people are steady, stable, shy, security-oriented, servant, submissive, or specialist. And the C, which means people are cautious, competent, calculated, compliant, careful, and competent. Now this is here just a snapshot of my Uniquely You report, just showing some of my temperaments that I tend to show more of, and the temperaments that I tend to be less of. So, just a little sharing of the Uniquely You report with you. And my personality type. On the Uniquely You questionnaire, which you just seen, I was marked as a D for graph 1, which this is what is expected of me. And this means I can think or feel that people expect me to be dominant, direct, demanding, and determined. I believe that people want me to take charge and accomplish the task at hand. I am more confident than most others. Now in graph 2, which is who I really am, and what they have measured me to be, I define my behavioral blend as ISC, ICS, SCI, SIC, CIS, or CSI, which all those are interchangeable, and with that behavioral blend of all 3, they're all going to be the same, no matter what order the temperament's in. So that means I tend to be more passive than active. I have strong people skills to be both outgoing and reserved. I like to influence and interact with people, but I can also withdraw and concentrate on specific projects. Here's a snapshot of my Queendom report, which the Queendom report and the Uniquely You questionnaire, they were similar but I believe that the Uniquely You report measured me more accurately, my own personal opinion. So, it's a snapshot of that report as well. So barriers of my interpersonal context, what affects me and inhibits me from communicating effectively. So taking time to reflect on listening behavior by exploring the questions and listening habits of others is a way to overcome communication barriers that you may have. And that is one thing that I struggle with there. Poor communication blocks access to deeper relationships that we want and cause close relationships to remain distant and impersonal. I usually, when I talk to friends, family, it's usually on the phone, and that's one thing with this whole electronic era, where electronics rule the world, and it's all about cyber. I believe that inhibits me from becoming more personal and intimate with friends and family who I already have a relationship with, but can have a deeper relationship with. It says a listening barrier exists when someone hears what they want to hear, not what is really communicated. When we tend to interpret what we hear and see through our own internal filtering experience. And those filtering experiences could be when we were mad, when we were sad, when we were happy. So at times when we're hearing things that we've experienced about before, depending on what emotional contribution we can give to those experiences is how we will react to in our communication skills. So, emotional beings, we're social beings, but we're also emotional beings. So, one major barrier of effective listening is that in society we have equated speaking with mastery and power. And that goes back to, when I said in the first slide how we always have a story to tell, and at times we don't let others tell theirs. So, we're to tell our story, let people hear it. The listener should be, respective and considerate and indulge, be intimate, and vice versa. When we're listening to other stories, we need to give that back to them as well. Now, identification, provision of solutions to noise pollution. Now, noise pollution can be a barrier to effective interpersonal communication. Internal noise pollution, there's two types, internal noise pollution and external noise pollution. Internal noise pollution is more psychological, physiological. It's our internal thought processes, how we feel and how our brain operates. And external noise pollution is more physical, semantic, so it's more environmental. It's more of, noise outside, or, temperature in the room, stuff like that. So these barriers can inhibit our communication skills as well. So solutions to noise pollution. So how are we going to overcome these barriers, Solutions to internal noise pollution depends on the talker listener's initiative to identify and break the cycles of ineffective listening and talking that ultimately hinder our communication skills. Effective listening involves not only tuning into others, but tuning into ourselves. So there's a time and place to indulge into yourself, but also you're supposed to indulge into others. Listening carefully to what we say and how we say it can teach us an immense amount about ourselves. Now, there's two techniques that are very, very important when it comes to communication. That's inhaling and exhaling. Just like when you're breathing. You're inhaling that air, you're soaking it in, indulging and getting the oxygen into your body. And when you're exhaling, you're taking a break, but you're still going to be focused on taking another inhale, breathing that whole process over. So when it comes to solutions, this is one way that we can overcome barriers. And inhaling is the process of listening, which creates the breathing in of another person in conversation. So, as you take in what another person is saying, then that person too is going to do the same. It's kind of like, these two processes of inhaling, exhaling, but it's one process of breathing, the ultimate process of breathing. So exhaling consists of sending out of ourselves to other persons we're conversing with. So, getting that indulgency, getting that intimacy, and, having effective forms of communication is what it boils down to. And these solutions to external noise pollution are most of the time preventable or can be avoided. Externally, there's certain things we can do. Now, when it comes to internal pollution, sometimes there's not much we can really do about that. That might be the way our brains are wired, or just, what we're going through, our emotions at that time. So, my action plan, just like with anything, practice makes perfect. So this is an action plan that I have put together to better my communication skills and to become a more effective communicator, listener, and talker. I like to become a better listener and be more self-aware when talking, and be more considerate and letting others have a chance to speak as well. I would take ownership, which ownership relates to responsibility of one's feelings and thoughts. So, if I am emotional or whatever, I'll be able to check that, realize it, bring it into focus, and conform, be able to, I will take ownership when communicating and try to be more open. I want to be more mindful when it comes to listening. So when it comes to mindful listening, that's just being respectful, considerate, having empathy, which is my next one. And just being able to indulge more, I need to be more empathetic and supportive, which I just said. I like to be more dialogical when it comes to listening, and dialogical listening allows everyone in the conversation to have meaning. So everyone gets a chance to speak, everyone gets a chance to listen. We're building that bond, that relationship there. And I like to be more positive and try not to speak with authority, to give other people the chance to speak when I'm speaking, and vice versa. And I want to learn not to be biased and learn how to treat others equally. So just not because of what I'm feeling, what I've experienced in life, because my view or opinion is different than yours. I would like to, be unbiased and see things from other people's point of view as well. And ultimately practice inhaling and exhaling, the whole breathing process of, giving and receiving. Giving and receiving, what communication is about. So my conclusion is there's a direct link between the quality of your communication and the quality of your life. We all have a story to tell, and we would like others to hear it. It is important that we listen and try to understand one another. People may seem to think that talking to someone is a simple task, but it's far more complex than we think due to the simple fact that naturally we as humans are able to communicate. That gives us humanness. And the Bible tells us that to know this, my beloved, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And that, my friends, is what concludes it. We each want to speak. We each want to learn from one another. So in that, we need to just give one another that respect, that intimacy, indulge, we're social beings. God put us here for each other for reasons. And those reasons are so that way we can help one another out. So when it comes to communicating, I like to say, help me help you. Let's indulge in this thing. Let's be good listeners, good speakers, and ultimately let's have effective communication. Let's not be passive in life. So with that being said, I'd like to thank each and every one of you, and hope you guys have a great week. God bless.